She gave away her school money to a homeless man on the street, not knowing he was connected to a billionaire family that would one day change her life forever. This isn't just a story about generosity. It's about pain, betrayal, and the strength to rise again. It's about a young Filipina woman who lost everything and still chose kindness, and how that one act sparked a chain reaction she never could have imagined. Stay till the end, because what happens next will not only surprise you, it might just change how you see the world. Based on true emotions, inspired by real stories. Watch until the last second. You'll never believe how it ends. Like, comment, share if this moved you. Subscribe for more stories that heal, inspire, and reveal the power of unseen kindness. They say silence can be loud, but for Leila Santos, silence was the only sound she knew. In a faded trailer nestled behind a dusty chain-link fence on the edge of Fresno, California, she lay curled on a worn-out mattress, arms wrapped around her, knees listening to the wind rattle the thin aluminum walls like a warning. She had just turned 20. Not that anyone had remembered. No cake, no candles, just the familiar burn of a dollar store mop handle in her palm, and the stench of motel bleach soaking through her hoodie. At night, the hollow hum of distant freight trains comforted her more than voices ever had. It was safer that way. Leila's parents, Filipino immigrants who came to California chasing a size 8 dream, had died in a car crash 8 years earlier. Since then, she'd lived with Marisol, her mother's eldest sister, a woman whose heart had long gone bitter, fermented by years of scraping together pennies in a land that never loved her back. Marisol didn't say, "I love you." She said, "You owe me. Do you think you're better than the rest of us?" She'd snap, throwing a used sponge onto the counter. "You're not special just because you got into college. Degrees don't clean toilets." Leila never answered. Words were dangerous around Marisol. She'd learned to hold them in, just like tears. Marisol's daughter, Jade, barely a year older than Leila, spent her days filming TikToks in crop tops and eyeliner, while Leila scrubbed grout in silence. "You're like a background character," Jade once said with a smirk. "No one would notice if you disappeared." But Leila didn't disappear. Instead, she studied late into the night, taking online classes on borrowed Wi-Fi, working double shifts at the Evergreen Motel, saving every dime in a metal tin under her bed. And that morning, that gray and sleepy Monday, she had finally counted out exactly $640, the amount due for her community college tuition. She smoothed the bills inside a manila envelope, her fingers trembling slightly, as if the cash might vanish if she blinked. She didn't have a bank account, no credit cards, no backup plan. This money was it, the only thing standing between her and another semester closer to a real future. "Don't mess this up." Marisol growled from the cracked linoleum kitchen. She was frying Spam in a pan that had lost its handle. Jade sat beside her in bunny slippers, scrolling through her phone like she was allergic to effort. "I won't," Leila replied, her voice barely more than breath. "You better not," Marisol said, wiping her hands on her apron. "If that money doesn't reach that school today, then don't come back here crying. I'm done bailing you out." Leila nodded. She didn't argue. She never did. She slid the envelope into her bag, zipped up her faded gray hoodie, and stepped out into the cold. The sun was rising slowly over the Central Valley, casting golden light on broken beer bottles and rusted shopping carts. A dog barked 2 trailers down. A neighbor's car sputtered and coughed before dying again. Fresno was waking up, but Leila felt like she was sleepwalking through her own life. Crossed the pothole-riddled lot, each step echoing a silent prayer. "Just let me get there. Just let me hand it over. Just let today be normal." Her phone buzzed. A reminder. Tuition deadline, 12 p.m. She checked the time, 41 m, plenty of time. The college was only a 30-minute bus ride away. She just had to walk 2 blocks to the stop, then ride, then pay. It sounded so simple, but life, hers at least, was never that kind. She couldn't know that just one turn, one stranger on the sidewalk, one split-second decision would shift the course of her entire existence. She couldn't know that in less than 2 hours, She'd be completely broke and completely free. Sometimes destiny doesn't knock on your door. Sometimes it sits quietly beside a freeway, off-ramp wearing worn-out shoes and hungry eyes. And sometimes it's hidden in the trembling hands of a girl who dares to give away everything with nothing promised in return. Leila's boots slapped softly against the sidewalk, the envelope warm against her ribs under her hoodie. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it, as usual. The bus stop was still 2 blocks away. She could see the overpass ahead where cars roared, by like angry giants. A graffiti-covered pillar stood tall, casting long shadows on the dirt path below. And there, sitting hunched near the base of the concrete wall, was a man. He looked like he'd been carved out of silence, motionless like he had nowhere to go and no reason to move. His hair was gray and tangled, his coat threadbare, and a faded navy cap sat lopsided on his head. He didn't ask for anything. Didn't stretch out a hand. He just stared at the ground as if trying to remember who he once was. Leila slowed down, a chill creeping up her spine that had nothing to do with the morning air. She had seen him before, or someone like him. Maybe it was the corner store, or the downtown shelter where she used to volunteer back when life was a little less sharp-edged. Still, she could have walked on, she almost did. But something tugged at her heart, a voice softer than reason. Bakit hindi ka tumulong? Why won't you help? It sounded like her mother. Without thinking, Leila stopped. The man glanced up, eyes sunken but warm, and cracked lips twitching into the faintest smile. Morning, he rasped. Didn't mean to scare you. You didn't, she replied softly, stepping closer. He looked older than her father would have been, maybe 70, but with the weariness of someone much older. You okay? He gave a dry chuckle. Depends what you mean by okay. Haven't eaten since Tuesday, but the sun came up, so I guess I'm blessed. Leila's throat tightened. She reached into her bag, fingering the envelope. Her breath caught. She couldn't. She shouldn't. But still, she pulled it out. The flap crinkled as she opened it. The bills were still crisp, still warm, all that she had, all she'd worked for. Gone, if she did this. She looked down at the man, his hands trembling slightly on his lap, like leaves clinging to a dying branch. Sir, she said, what's your name? He looked up, brows rising slowly. Benito, he said. But most people just call me Tito Ben. You Filipino? She nodded. My mom was from Bicol. She used to say that helping someone without being asked was the truest kind of love. Tito Ben smiled. Smart woman. She handed him the envelope. He stared at it, then at her. What's this? My tuition, she said quietly. Or at least it was. Now, it's yours. No, no, he said quickly, trying to give it back. This is too much. You need this. Leila shook her head, tears burning her eyes. Maybe, but you need it more. And I can't walk away. Not today. Tito. Ben took the envelope slowly, his fingers brushing hers. He held it like a sacred thing, like a memory. God bless you, Anak, he whispered. You've just saved an old man's life, she smiled faintly. I hope so. Then she turned and walked on, not toward the bus, not toward college, but toward an uncertain future with nothing but an empty bag and a strangely quiet peace inside her chest. Her phone buzzed again. Tuition deadline, 11:12 a.m. She deleted the notification because something inside her had shifted. A thread pulled loose, reweaving her into someone new. Back at the overpass, Tito Ben watched her go, blinking back tears. He thought he'd forgotten how to cry. And in that moment, 2 stories broke open. One from a girl who gave everything, and one from a man who might finally have the chance to give back. Leila walked the rest of the way home in silence. Her steps were slower now, as if each one carried the weight of the envelope she no longer had. When she reached the dusty trailer lot, Marisol was already waiting at the door, arms folded tight across her chest like a bad omen. Where's the receipt? She snapped without even a hello. Leila opened her mouth, but no words came out. Marisol took a step forward, eyes narrowing. Leila, don't play games. Did you pay your tuition or not? I lost it, Leila whispered. The lie tasted like rust on her tongue. You what? Marisol roared. I lost the money. Marisol's face twisted with rage. You're lying, she shouted. You probably gave it to some useless boyfriend. You think you're so smart? You're just like your mother, always throwing your life away for strangers. Leila didn't reply. She couldn't, because part of her knew it was true, and yet it wasn't. She didn't do it to impress anyone. She did it because she had to. Marisol grabbed a broom from the porch and swung it hard. Leila flinched as it struck her side, but she didn't cry out. Ungrateful child. You think life's a fairy tale? Fine. Let's see how brave you really are. She tossed a dirty plastic jug at Leila's feet. Take this and go fetch water from the river, the one past the train tracks. You know the one I'm talking about. Leila's eyes widened. No, Auntie, please, that place is dangerous. Exactly, maybe you'll learn your lesson. And with that, Marisol slammed the door. Leila stood frozen, the jug in her hands, her body aching, her chest tight with panic. No one ever went to that stretch of the river anymore. Kids said it was haunted. Some said a girl had drowned there years ago, and her spirit still waited, dragging down anyone foolish enough to return. But what choice did she have? If she stayed, Marisol would just find another punishment. Maybe worse. The sun was dipping low when Leila reached the edge of the riverbank. Tall weeds swayed like ghosts in the wind, and the water glistened with a dull silver sheen. She stepped carefully, her shoes sinking slightly into the mud. Birds scattered as she approached. She knelt at the edge and whispered a quiet prayer in Tagalog. Her mother's lullaby floated into her memory, something about rivers and resilience. The water was cold, but not cruel. She filled the jug slowly, then stood up and looked around. Nothing strange, no ghosts, only the sound of wind and water and the echo of her own breath. When she returned home, Marisol stared at her in disbelief. You came back? Leila nodded, placing the full jug by the sink. You really are a freak, aren't you? Marisol muttered. You've always had that look, like there's something wrong with you. Maybe you're a witch. That's how you survived that place. Leila said nothing, but inside her something had shifted. A quiet strength had taken root. That night, long after the house was silent, Leila slipped outside and sat on the trailer steps. She watched the stars, her arms wrapped around her knees. She thought about the envelope, about Tito Ben. Was he safe? Was he warm? Had she really done the right thing? Or had she just thrown away her last chance? She didn't know. But the stars didn't judge. They just shimmered quietly above her, like tiny promises waiting to be believed. The next morning, Leila rose before the sun. She hadn't really slept. The silence of the night had been loud, filled with echoes of Marisol's voice and the memory of Tito Ben's tired eyes. She dressed quickly, pulling on the same worn jeans and an old hoodie that still smelled faintly of laundry soap. Before leaving, she scribbled a note on a crumpled piece of paper. Going to school early. Don't wait up. She knew Marisol wouldn't miss her, but it felt better to leave something behind. Instead of heading to school, Leila walked back toward the bus stop by the highway. She didn't know why. Maybe she hoped to see him again. Maybe she just needed proof that the world was still turning. The sky was brushed with soft pink and orange when she reached the spot. The same stone was there, the same faded newspaper caught in the fence, but Tito Ben was gone. She sat down for a moment, clutching her backpack to her chest. The wind picked up and it whispered through the tall grass like a secret. Leila closed her eyes. She thought of her mother, of the way she'd once told Leila, "If you ever feel lost, Anak, listen to the wind. It carries the voices of those who still love you." That memory stung now, both sweet and painful. She stayed for almost an hour, then got up and began to walk. She didn't go to school. Her body moved through town like a ghost, past the bakery that no longer gave her free bread, and the church where she once lit a candle for her mother's soul. Everywhere she went, she saw people laughing, talking, living, but she felt invisible. She stopped outside the community library. It was quiet and smelled like old pages and forgotten dreams. Inside, she found a table in the back corner and sat down. She didn't open a book. She just sat. Hours passed. When her stomach growled, she ignored it. By afternoon, she knew she had to go home. She couldn't disappear completely, at least not yet. But when she walked through the door of the trailer, Marisol was waiting. "Where the hell have you been?" Leila flinched. "At school," she lied. "You think I'm stupid?" Marisol snapped. She marched across the room, her breath hot with rage. "I got a call. They said you never showed. You skipped again." "Why?" Leila opened her mouth, but no words came. "I should throw you out," Marisol shouted. "You're a burden, a freeloader. You eat my food, sleep under my roof, and can't even do the one thing I ask." Leila clenched her fists. She wanted to scream, to say she had no food, no books, no one. But she stayed silent, because she knew how this ended, with yelling, with pain, with a door slammed in her face. Marisol stormed away, muttering curses under her breath. Leila walked into the small bedroom, closed the door, and collapsed onto the thin mattress. Her hands trembled. She pressed her forehead against the pillow and cried, quietly, so no one would hear. She didn't want pity. She just wanted peace. Later, that night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought about running away. She thought about where she'd go. Maybe to the city. Maybe find Tito Ben. If he was real. If he was still alive. A breeze slipped in through the cracked window. It tickled her face, like a soft hand brushing away her tears. She turned onto her side and whispered into the dark, "I hope you're safe, Papa Ben." She didn't know why she called him that, but it felt right, like he was more family than anyone she had left. And somewhere, in a place far beyond her tiny trailer, an old man sat in a quiet diner, counting change for a coffee he didn't want, but needed to stay warm. He pulled a folded envelope from his coat pocket, held it like a lifeline, and whispered, "God bless you, child." Leila didn't talk much the next day. Not in class, not at lunch. Not even when her friend from chemistry, Kevin, tried to crack a joke about their teacher's wild hair. She just stared out the window, watching the clouds drift like soft boats across a wide blue sky. But her mind was miles away. Back on that highway. Back on that stone where a man with nothing had given her a reason to believe again. Word spread quickly around school. It always did. Someone claimed they saw Leila crying behind the library. Another said she got caught stealing lunch from the cafeteria. Neither story was true, but the whispers were louder than the truth. Kevin slid into the seat beside her during last period. "Hey," he said gently. "You good?" Leila nodded but didn't look at him. "You sure?" "I'm fine," she said quietly. Kevin watched her a moment longer. He wanted to say more, ask more. But the bell rang, and she was already out the door. That evening, back at the trailer park, Marisol had company, a man Leila had never seen before. He wore a too-tight polo, gold chains, and a cologne so strong it made Leila cough. "This your niece?" the man asked. Marisol nodded. "Yeah, she's a handful." Leila stood in the doorway, frozen. The man smirked. "She's pretty," he said. "Too bad she don't smile." Marisol laughed. Leila didn't. She slipped away to her room, closed the door, locked it, and sat on the floor, back against the wall. She didn't like the way that man looked at her. Didn't like the way Marisol laughed with him. Something about it felt wrong. Later, as the sun dipped low, she heard Marisol's voice outside. "She's no use to me," she was saying. "I should have let her go stay with that old man." Leila pressed her ear to the door. "She gave away her tuition money," Marisol continued, "to some bum on the side of the road. Can you believe that?" The man grunted. "She's dumb." Leila's heart sank. So that was it. Her kindness, her one brave moment, had become gossip, an excuse to mock her, a reason to throw her away. She curled up on the mattress, hugging her knees. But before sleep took her, She remembered something, the way Tito Ben had looked at her, not with pity, not with scorn, but with something close to love. That memory gave her strength. The next morning, Leila skipped school again. Instead, she walked to the diner near the edge of town, the same place where the old men played cards and the waitresses knew everyone's coffee order. She stepped inside, and her eyes scanned the booths. At first, nothing, just truckers, a group of retirees, and a bored waitress tapping on her phone. But then, there he was, in the corner, Tito Ben, sipping from a chipped mug, his eyes on the window. She walked over slowly. "Hi," she said. He looked up, his face lit up like morning light over the hills. "Leila," she sat across from him. "I didn't know if I'd find you." "I didn't know if you'd come," he said. She smiled, a real smile. "The first in days." "I wanted to thank you," he said. "No," she replied. "I should thank you." He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out the envelope she'd given. Him. "I didn't spend a single dollar," he said quietly. She blinked. "What?" "I was about to, but something told me to wait." He leaned forward. "There's something I need to tell you." Leila's heart pounded. "I'm not who you think I am." Leila stared at the photo, her fingers trembling. She didn't need to ask. She knew that dress, knew the crooked tire swing in the background, knew the look in the child's eyes, because she'd seen it in the mirror for years. "That's me," she whispered. Tito Ben nodded slowly. "I kept that photo with me through everything," he said. "The streets, the shelters, the bad years. I always hoped, one day, I'd find you again." Leila's mouth opened, but the words got stuck in her throat. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could barely think. How is this possible?" she finally asked. "I was your father's older brother," Ben said. "Your Uncle Benito. But everyone called me Ben. I was supposed to help raise you after the accident. But I didn't. I ran." "Why?" Ben looked down, his fingers tightening around the coffee mug. "I was grieving and drinking and angry at the world. I thought someone else could do better. I didn't think I was enough." Leila sat back, her mind reeling. "All this time, I thought no one cared." "I did," he said quickly. "I cared more than I can ever explain, but I didn't know where you were. By the time I sobered up, you'd been placed with a guardian. Your aunt wouldn't let me near you." Leila shook her head. Tears formed in her eyes. "That makes sense," she said quietly. "She always acted like I was some shameful burden." Ben reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "I'm sorry, Leila. I failed you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know." She didn't pull her hand away, and in that simple gesture Ben found a tiny flicker of hope. "Why didn't you say something when we first met?" she asked. "I wasn't sure. Didn't want to scare you. Didn't want to be wrong." He smiled. "Sadly, but when you gave me that envelope, I knew. Only someone raised by your mother would do something that selfless." The silence between them felt thick but not uncomfortable, just full of things unsaid, and things finally being said. After a long pause, Leila finally exhaled. "So what now?" Ben looked at her, eyes steady. "Come with me, I've been offered. A job, a place to stay. It's up north, Sonoma. It's not much, but it's better than what you have now." Leila hesitated. Her mind flashed to Marisol, to Jade, to the trailer, to the yelling, the bruises, the empty fridge, and then she thought of the envelope, of this moment, of the photo in her hand. She nodded. "I want to come." Ben smiled, not with his mouth but with his whole face. "Then we leave tomorrow." They sat a while longer, talking about the past, the bits they remembered, and the dreams they used to have. When Leila finally left the diner, she felt something she hadn't in a long time. Not excitement, but peace. The kind of peace that whispers, "You're not alone anymore." Leila couldn't sleep. The night was thick with silence, but her thoughts screamed like sirens. She kept replaying everything Ben had said. Her uncle, her only real family, and now, a chance. A new life. She looked around the cramped trailer, the flickering ceiling light, the cracked walls, the faint smell of mold and cheap air freshener. She knew she had to go. But getting out wasn't simple. Marisol had locked the trailer from the outside. Just to be safe, she always said. More like, just to keep control. Leila tiptoed across the linoleum floor, her bare feet silent. She reached under the couch cushion where she'd hidden the small butter knife. Jade had shown her how to wedge it between the latch and the door frame. Just in case, she'd whispered. Now that case had arrived, Leila slid the knife in, praying the old trick still worked. A soft click. A breath held. And then freedom. The night air hit her like a wave. Cold, clean. She didn't bring much, just the photo, the address, the little cash Ben had slipped. Her when Marisol wasn't looking. She slipped through the yard quietly, past the barking neighbor's dog, past the rusted bikes and old furniture. She didn't look back. If she did, she might lose her nerve. At the corner of the street, she saw the bus stop. Ben had said, "First light." She waited, alone, shivering, but not afraid. When the bus came rumbling down the road, it felt like a chariot. She climbed on, paid in crumpled bills, and sat near the window. The city slowly disappeared behind her. The buildings, the cracked sidewalks, the places that held more pain than joy. She held the photo in her hand and whispered, "I'm coming." Hours later, the bus pulled into the Sonoma station. Ben was there, in a faded cap and clean flannel shirt. He waved the moment he saw her. Leila stepped off the bus and into a world that felt lighter. Ben took her bag, and they walked together toward the small car he'd borrowed from a friend. "I got a room set up," he said. "It's not fancy, but it's clean." Leila nodded. Every step away from her past felt like healing. The room was small, but the sheets smelled like lavender. There was a desk, a lamp, a bookshelf half filled with old paperbacks. For the first time in years, she had a door she could lock. From the inside, she sat on the bed and let the silence wrap around her like a warm blanket. Ben knocked once and slid a plate of rice and beans inside. "Eat, rest," he said gently. "You're safe now." Leila believed him. She ate slowly, savoring every bite, and when she finally lay down to sleep, she did so without fear. That night, her dreams were not filled with shouting or shadows. They were soft, hopeful, of light filtering through grapevines, of a life still unwritten. And somewhere in that dream, she saw her mother smiling. Leila whispered back, "I'm safe now, Mama. I made it out." The morning sun peeked through thin curtains. Leila woke up to the scent of fresh coffee. Not burnt toast, not cigarette smoke, but coffee. She blinked, and for a second, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. She was free. Ben was already in the kitchen wearing an apron with a faded SF Giants logo. "Morning, champ," he said with a smile, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs toward her. Leila smiled back, still unsure if this was real. The room had soft light, a potted plant near the window, and an old record playing quietly in the corner. It felt like home. After breakfast, Ben drove her around the neighborhood. They passed a school, a library, and a corner cafe with chalkboard menus. Leila stared out the window, soaking it all in. "This place has good people," Ben said. "Small town, but big hearts." She nodded, her heart still cautious. That afternoon, Ben introduced her to Diane, a retired teacher who volunteered at the community center. Diane had short silver hair and a voice like honey. "Oh, so this is the young lady I've been hearing about," she said warmly. Leila blushed, then smiled. "Don't be shy," Diane said. "Everyone starts somewhere. Let's see what books you like." They spent hours in the dusty back room of the center, stacking books, organizing shelves, and laughing over old magazines. Leila didn't notice the time pass. She felt useful. That night, Ben handed her a small notebook. "Write anything you want," he said. Dreams, memories, poems, gorsaries, whatever. Leila opened the cover. The first page was blank. So she wrote, Today, I didn't cry. The next day, Ben took her to a second-hand clothing store. Leila picked a pair of jeans that actually fit, a blue cardigan, and a floral dress she didn't dare wear just yet. At the counter, Ben whispered, "Just say the word and we'll put it all back." Leila shook her head. "I want this," she said. That weekend, Diane invited them for dinner. Her house was filled with books, paintings of wildflowers, and the smell of roasted chicken. They ate on mismatched plates and drank juice from glass jars. Halfway through dessert, Diane turned to Leila. "Ever thought about college?" Leila looked up, surprised. "No one's ever asked me that before." "Well, I'm asking now," Diane said, tapping her spoon against her plate. "I think you're smart. And I think it's never too late," Ben added. "We could start with a few classes, just explore." Leila felt her throat tighten. College. A future. It felt like something stolen was being returned. That night she stared at the ceiling fan above her bed. The air was still. Her thoughts were not. She whispered to the dark, "I'm ready, I want this new start." In the quiet, it felt like the world finally whispered back, "Then go take it." The morning sun peeked through thin curtains. Leila woke up to the scent of fresh coffee. Not burnt toast, not cigarette smoke, but coffee. She blinked, and for a second she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. She was free. Ben was already in the kitchen, wearing an apron with a faded SF Giants logo. "Morning, champ," he said with a smile, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs toward her. Leila smiled back, still unsure if this was real. The room had soft light, a potted plant near the window, and an old record playing quietly in the corner. It felt like home. After breakfast, Ben drove her around the neighborhood. They passed a school, a library, and a corner cafe with chalkboard menus. Leila stared out the window, soaking it all in. "This place has good people," Ben said. "Small town, but big hearts." She nodded, her heart still cautious. That afternoon, Ben introduced her to Diane, a retired teacher who volunteered at the community center. Diane had short silver hair and a voice like honey. "Oh, so this is the young lady I've been hearing about," she said warmly. Leila blushed, then smiled. "Don't be shy," Diane said. "Everyone starts somewhere. Let's see what books you like." They spent hours in the dusty back room of the center, stacking books, organizing shelves, and laughing over old magazines. Leila didn't notice the time pass. She felt useful. That night, Ben handed her a small notebook. "Write anything you want," he said. "Dreams, memories, poems, gorsaries, whatever." Leila opened the cover. The first page was blank, so she wrote, "Today I didn't cry." The next day, Ben took her to a second-hand clothing store. Leila picked a pair of jeans that actually fit, a blue cardigan, and a floral dress she didn't dare wear just yet. At the counter, Ben whispered, "Just say the word and we'll put it all back." Leila shook her head. "I want this," she said. That weekend, Diane invited them for dinner. Her house was filled with books, paintings of wildflowers, and the smell of roasted chicken. They ate on mismatched plates and drank juice from glass jars. Halfway through dessert, Diane turned to Leila. "Ever thought about college?" Leila looked up, surprised. "No one's ever asked me that before." "Well, I'm asking now," Diane said, tapping her spoon against her plate. "I think you're smart, and I think it's never too late." Ben added, "We could start with a few classes, just explore." Leila felt her throat tighten. College. A future. It felt like something stolen was being returned. That night, she stared at the ceiling fan above her bed. The air was still. Her thoughts were not. 3 weeks had passed since Leila first stepped into her new life, and yet some mornings still felt like a dream. She sat in the garden outside Ben's home, watching the wind ruffle the leaves of a lemon tree. There was peace here, but something inside her still waited. Waited for the past to catch up. Waited for the truth to finish writing itself. That afternoon, as she folded laundry with Diane, Ben walked in with an envelope in his hand. He looked stunned. "Leila, this came for you." She frowned. "Who knows I'm here?" He handed it over silently. No return address, just her name in careful block letters. She opened it slowly, and inside was a single folded sheet. It read, "I never forgot you. Come see me. Apartment 304, Harborview. Towers, Wednesday, 3 p.m. No signature, no explanation. Leila's fingers trembled. Diane came over, reading the worry on her face. You okay, sweetheart? Leila nodded slowly. But the truth was more complicated. She didn't know whether to be scared or hopeful. Ben read it next, his expression tightening. You don't have to go. I think I do, she whispered. Wednesday came. The sky was gray, the air thick with the smell of ocean mist. Ben insisted on driving her. They didn't speak much on the way. When they reached Harborview Towers, he parked across the street. I'll wait here, he said gently. Leila nodded, stepped out and crossed the sidewalk. The building was old but clean. She took the elevator to the 3rd floor, apartment 304. Her heart pounded as she knocked. A moment passed, then the door opened and there he was, the man she had once helped beside a highway, the man she thought was homeless. He looked different. His clothes were neat, his hair trimmed, his eyes clearer. He smiled softly. You came. Leila nodded, not trusting her voice. Come in, he said, stepping aside. She walked in slowly. The apartment was small, but warm. Photos on the wall, books on the shelf, a faint smell of ginger tea in the air. I owe you everything, he said. Leila turned. You don't owe me anything. He shook his head. No, you gave me hope. That day, you gave me your future. I used it to build mine back. He opened a drawer, then handed her another envelope. Inside was a check. $5,000. Leila gasped. I can't take this. You can, and you must. It's yours, a small piece of what you helped create. Tears welled in her eyes. He reached out, touched her shoulder gently. And there's someone else who wants to thank you. He stepped to the side. From the hallway came a young man, well-dressed, calm. His voice was gentle. Hi, I'm Elijah. My father told me everything about you. Leila's heart jumped. This was his son? Elijah smiled. I run a foundation now. We help young women rebuild their lives. He extended a business card. If you ever want to work with us or just talk, we're here. Leila stared at the card, then at the two men. Her past, her pain had led her here. To something good, to something real. Ben was waiting downstairs. She hugged both men softly, thanked them, and walked back out with the check clutched to her chest. Outside, the sky had cleared. The sun broke through, and for the first time in a long time, Leila didn't feel like she was running from something. She felt like she was walking toward something new, something beautiful. She whispered to the dark, I'm ready. I want this new start. In the quiet, it felt like the world finally whispered back, then go take it. A year had passed. Leila stood in front of the mirror, cradling a baby boy in her arms. His name was Isaiah, and he had his father's smile. Ben walked into the room, towel around his shoulders, wet hair from the morning rain. Ready? He asked, softly. Leila turned and nodded. Today was a special day, Isaiah's first birthday, but also something more. They were opening a new shelter downtown, a partnership between Elijah's foundation and the city. Leila had been chosen to help run it. Not because of her past, but because of her heart. As they drove downtown, the city looked different to her now. It wasn't cold, it wasn't distant. It was full of second chances. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was small but full of love. Ben stood beside her. Elijah gave a short speech, then handed her the scissors. Leila took a deep breath and smiled. She looked out over the small crowd. Women, children, volunteers. People who knew pain, people who had known hunger, and people who believed in starting again. She cut the ribbon. Applause filled the air. Inside, the shelter was bright and clean. A mural on the wall read, "Kindness is never wasted." In one corner, a quiet coffee nook, just like the one where she'd once shared stories with Diane. Later that afternoon, as the visitors trickled out, Ben came and wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You did it," he whispered. Leila leaned back into him. "No, we did." The door opened. Elijah stepped in. He was holding an envelope. "This came for you at the front desk." Leila opened it. Inside was a photograph of her and the man she'd helped taken at Harborview Towers. On the back, a note in careful handwriting. "Your kindness changed the course of 3 lives. Thank you." No signature, just gratitude. That evening, as they drove home, Isaiah asleep in his car seat, Leila looked out the window at the setting sun. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't stopped that day?" Ben reached over and took her hand. "I think about it all the time, and every time I'm just thankful you did." Leila smiled. The girl who had once given away everything she had, now had everything she needed. Love, purpose, and a future. She looked back at Isaiah, safe and warm, and knew one thing with all her heart. This was only the beginning. The end of the story? No, just the start of a brand new chapter. She was once just a forgotten girl, a daughter discarded, a student left behind. But now, she's a woman who built a haven for others, a mother, a leader, a survivor. Leila's story reminds us that kindness isn't weakness. It's power, and sometimes it's the smallest decision, like helping a hungry man on the street, that reshapes the future. So tell us, what did this story mean to you? Did it stir your heart, make you angry, or restore your faith in people? Let us know in the comments below. And if you believe the world needs more stories like this, real, raw, and deeply human, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because together we can remind the world that even when life is darkest, one act of love can light the way. Thank you for watching. Stay kind, stay brave, stay human.